Hey, how are you? It's Chris Brogan. I just wanted to go live and say hello. I wanted to connect and make the opportunity to check in with you. And as the year ends, see what's up with you, say hi, that sort of a thing. And I wanted to also talk a little bit about the end of the year and going forward, what I think might be interesting in 2019 and beyond. I also am just curious, what's going to happen if I do this? Not bad, not bad. Not the best. Okay. I'm going to go back to the first one, I think. Boop. There I am. Cool. So what I want to talk about is year-end 2018, year beginning 2019, some of the things I've noticed, some of where I think we're headed. You know, as I'm working on this book that I'm working on, it's called Be Where They Are, Go Where They're Going. I was really getting caught up trying to talk about various technologies around what businesses are going to need to use to go forward and how they're going to make their business work out the coming year. And what's interesting to me is that the experience that businesses are going to have to go through is that they're going to have to actually not think so much about the tech, but think about how they're going to use the tech to align with people and make better connections. So I think that the tech's going to be there, but I think it's not going to be anything, it's what the tech can do for us. Look, Bob just left a comment. Bob said, hey, cool, 2 cameras. This is the opportunity. Hi, Bob, by the way. This is what we're going to do as companies. We're going to learn how to connect better, how to make better connections with the people that we hope to serve. And in the process, do something where we can better serve people using our technology, not so much that whole experience of making it about the technology. Do you know what I mean? So I was looking around at like marketing technology for the last couple of 3 years, and it's all about marketing automation. How can I robo-shove the stuff that I want to stuff towards people out the door? How can I get some metrics around it and that sort of a thing? Which, metrics are great. You shouldn't do something without some kind of metrics. You shouldn't do something without some kind of data. But we, the consumer, none of us are saying, man, I really can't wait for more marketing automation. We, the consumer, aren't saying, I really hope a bunch of robots are going to push more robot junk at us. What we're saying is, there's the stuff that we're into and there's the stuff that we're not into. And every now and again, we're pursuing some particular goal, or we're heading in a certain direction or something like that. And that direction might not match what everyone else is into, but we're going to want to connect with people. We're going to want to learn more about the thing we're interested in. We're going to want to do some research. So what I want to work with companies on in the coming years is, how do we do that? How do we build better customer experience? How do we connect more with what matters to people? I've been having the same conversation for the last bunch of weeks about Into the Spider-Verse, the new movie animated movie with Miles Morales being the star. So if you know Spider-Man has always been Peter Parker, and this is in a multiple dimension kind of a scenario where this Spider-Man is actually this kid, Miles Morales, who is half black, half Puerto Rican. And what's interesting about that, of course, is that there's more inclusion, more representation, a very different take on Spider-Man with a lot of the same kind of underpinnings of, with great power comes great responsibility. The movie itself is really interesting because it has multiple Spider people in it. It has Spider-Gwen, who's Gwen Stacy from another dimension, who has the spider power. It has Spider-Man Noir, who is Nicolas Cage. It has Spider-Ham, which is the cartoon pig Spider-Man that was a joke in the 70s, but actually is played to really interesting, what's the word I want to say, to effect by John Mulaney. And there's just all this interesting stuff. But what was interesting today is that my oldest son was showing me some pictures of all these different spider sonas that people are creating on Instagram. And it was really fun to go through and look at, because what people were doing is that they're creating their own interpretations of spider characters they'd be if they were in the Spider-Verse, so to speak. Because there was this comment at some point in the movie that everyone's their own Spider-Man at some point or another. And I really liked it because I think that's where we're going with all the stuff that we want in life. Remember way back when like Windows 95 first came out, and we were like, wow, we can change our desktops. We can put our own pictures up. We can customize. We can make things our way in some way or another. Isn't it interesting that we now have the opportunity, thanks, Harold. That's my son being clever. Something. You'll pause to read this. Isn't it interesting that we can now make stuff and that better represents or reflects who we are. We can choose things. We can go from beyond just customization to personalization. This is a big trend going into 2019. More and more and more services are doing delivery. More and more services are doing personalization. I just saw the stats for 2018's year-end retail numbers for the United States, at least, and Amazon was far and away over everybody else. And why? Because you have access to millions of product SKUs and not just what's in your local store. And shop local, yes, for trying to keep the town's economy going and all that. But the opportunity and the option to buy what we want from the various places that we want to shop or choose to connect with or whatever, you can't beat Amazon at that game right now. There's such an opportunity to kind of really pursue what you're pursuing. So one of the biggest trends, I think, going forward into 2019 is that customers don't want to be ads thrown at them all the time. But when they're in the midst of pursuing something, when they're looking for something new or interesting that appeals to them, then they do research. Then they check stuff out. Then they kind of look into what they're looking into. This microphone right here is the Blue Yeti Nano, which is a smaller version of the original Blue Yeti. And what's kind of interesting about it is that the Blue Yeti is the mic that I've been recommending to people for years, and it's great. It's just obviously a little bit bigger than the Nano. And so, oh my gosh, this thing's not going to come off the stand. But what's interesting is it's just the right size. So it's perfect. So if you were going to say to someone, hey, I'm thinking of starting to get podcasting, what do I want to use? I would now recommend this microphone. Well, that's when, a company like Blue can say, oh, and if you want to understand what it's about, why would you get this instead of the original Blue Yeti or the Blue Nessie or the Blue Snowball or other brands? Why would you? There's such an opportunity to make interesting content that people would want in those moments. How to start a podcast type stuff, all that kind of information needs to be made available for when someone's looking for it, not just shoved out in advertisements, not just pushed out into spaces. And what I think is different about what I'm recommending, I mean, there's a lot of us on even watching this who are probably content marketers of some kind or another. There's a big difference between just making content for content's sake versus making content that will appeal to and connect with someone who's looking to extend their success in some area. When we go looking for stuff, people hate being sold to, but we love to buy. When we go looking for information is usually after, some event has happened and now we're aware that we may or may not need to make some kind of a change in our life. And then we have to decide and evaluate which product or service might help us get to this next level that we want to go to. And then we consider our purchase options. Then we have to sort of figure out how we're going to get onboarded and what it's going to take to use the products or services we want. I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you buy something and it's just not easy to use right out of the gate. And you're like, and then it just kind of sits unused for quite a long time. I'll give you an example. IKEA products. If you buy something from IKEA and you're not super good with an Allen wrench, that product's going to sit in a box for a really long time waiting for someone to come and put it together. It turns out eBay and several other services now have really fast access to people in your local area who are willing to assemble things like IKEA furniture for you at, rates that they've identified and whatnot, so that you can just handle that. It's just handled if you don't want to do it yourself. I think that's where we're going. Delivery options for food, for instance. All the fast food restaurants are now more and more pairing with places like Uber Eats. Starbucks just announced a big partnership with Uber Eats. McDonald's has one, etc. Chick-fil-A. There's all these companies that are saying, we understand that people are behaving in different ways now. We understand that people are connecting with our products and services in a different way. And so they're building systems in place to kind of connect with that. I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to pay attention to that and learn for themselves what's going to, help them, what's going to drive their own business forward and whatnot. So that's that. By the way, if anyone's here live and you want to chat with me, feel free to throw comments up in the comment section. I'm totally down to talk about anything that happened in 2018 or, predictions for going forward in 2019. That's the whole part of using this as a live experience. That's for sure. Oh, I wonder if this has a mute button. And that was Alexa, she who shall not be named, which I think is another trend. I think that there's a lot of people who are still on the fence about putting a device like that in their house, Alexa or Google Home or any of those. But I would say that we're getting there really fast, sort of screenless communications, this opportunity where we're not necessarily going to always have a rectangle in front of us, even our little candy bars of glass here. We're going to be in these circumstances where speaking out into the air or talking into our wristwatch like Dick Tracy in the old days is going to be kind of more normal for us. And I have this feeling that, as we're not necessarily paying attention to this, or we're not really ready to understand the ramifications of this, it's going to impact businesses and marketers who aren't necessarily as aware or are not thinking about where they want to go forward with this sort of a thing. So anyway, that's most of what I wanted to cover. And I'm really grateful for the people who came here live and checked it out. Even if you're not here live, no problem. Send an email to me, chris@chrisbrogan.com, or connect however you want. I'm always happy to talk with you, always grateful. Thank you so much for being part of this, and I will catch you soon. This kind of format, that's doing some live stuff, I'm going to do a little bit more of that in 2019, and I hope to see you there. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.